On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, ESPN has released their projections for this year's hockey season. What do they say about some of the players on the Colorado Avalanche? Do we agree? Do we disagree? Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, sir. Getting closer to September, which is obviously closer to the preseason and then regular season.
Wake me up when September ends.
Yeah. Okay, Billy Joe. And then so we're gonna talk about what we've been doing to kind of pass the time. We did a question on that. Like we were asked a question on what we're doing to pass the time. We also had a question on the first 5 games of the season to kind of predict those. So we'll do that. Sure, why not? But where we're gonna start is, like I said in the opening, ESPN, who we're not super fond of and how they cover the NHL, but they do have a pretty robust fantasy department over there, and they released their projections. I think they released them a couple weeks ago. We just haven't been able to get to them. So we figured it'd be fun to kind of go through the avs that they have up, what they're predicting for some of the avs players, and go from there. I don't do it's so fun. Like, I feel like I've retired from fantasy sports, man. Like, I don't do it anymore. And I'm kind of glad I don't, because it just took up a lot of time. And maybe it's just because, with kids, I just don't have the time to do it. And I get asked every year if I want to jump in either a football one or a hockey one. And I usually decline. I do one. It's just a pick 'em. That's it. I don't do anything. I can do that every week. But other than that, I'm out of the game with fantasy.
No, I wish I could be. I do fantasy football, at least like 2 or 3 teams. I can't do fantasy hockey because I am superstitious. I won't pick Avalanche players. And then it's like my hatred. I will never draft a wild player. So you're really eliminating so many players that you could pick. So no, I don't. I know. Much.
I'll never forget it. I remember my first year doing fantasy sports. And the reason I remember this is because it was Randy Moss's rookie season.
Ooh.
That was and it wasn't even done on a computer. I had to mail in my team by like Wednesday for whoever it was in my local paper. It wasn't the local paper who was running it. They were just like advertising for like this national fantasy. I had to mail that thing in by Wednesday to get my team in for the weekend. That was my first year doing fantasy sports. Crazy.
Okay, boomer. You had to walk to your mailbox uphill 2 miles both ways.
Yeah. Yep. First world problems, but I had to do it. I had to use a stamp, which was maybe like 17 cents back then. I don't even remember, but
oh man.
Yeah, I did. When I like officially retired, I felt good. I felt like I was giving up part of my life because so much of it was just wrapped up into fantasy sports. I just couldn't do it anymore. So,
well, and then it only solidifies like my absence from hockey when I see these lists, especially like from ESPN, even though they have a robust department. Like, I look at this list and there are so many questions and like personal feelings I have in this that I don't have when it comes to football. Like, I could just pick guys, it works. But with hockey, I'm just like, what are you talking about here?
All right. Well, we'll just go down the order that they have them in. And there is some interesting ones in the later players. But right off the bat, let's start off the top. And their number 1 ranked player on the Avalanche is, of course, Nathan MacKinnon. Their projections for him this year is 79 games played, 48 goals, 74 assists. That's 122 points, plus minus a plus 34, 38 penalty minutes, 44 power play points. an average time of ice on ice of 22:30, which is 18 seconds less. I'll take that. And his shots on goal are 401, which is 4 less than last year's 405. And we talked about McKinnon. We kind of gave our own projections on him. And I think we were in this realm. I think we're in the 120 to 130 range for him, just feeling like, the 140 is just so difficult to attain. Can he do it again? Sure. But does he come back down to earth? I guess you could say a little bit. And in that what do they say? 122?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's so far off.
Yeah, 122 seems about like a good number, but I want everybody that's listening and watching on YouTube, I want you to hold on to that 122 number to when we get to some other names on this list.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting drop, and 122 seems about right, like between 120 and 130. If you told me that's Nathan McKinnon's number, I feel good about that, but we'll see. I'm curious how he gets 122 with 4 less shots than he had last year, but whatever.
That's true. He's basically right there with shots, and 3 less games because he played all 82 games last year. So 3 less. Maybe if he plays all 82 this year, maybe tack on another 6 more points, 7 more points, and he's closer to that 130. So we'll see. Number 2, they have Cale Makar ranked 70. His projections for this year: 76 games played, 23 goals, 61 assists for 84 points. And as a reminder, he scored 90 last year, a plus minus of plus 20, 22 penalty minutes, which is an increase of his 16 from last year, 33 power play points, which is a decrease of 6 from last year. Increase in ice time, they say 25:42, which is almost a full minute more than he had last year. And then about the same shots on goal, 234 for this year compared to 231 last year. But people are going to focus in on the points for him. They're saying 84 points for Makar, where you have a lot of outlets feeling like he can hit the century mark this year. Do you think that's a little bit low?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. This is one that this would be Cale Makar's year to hit the century mark, especially after even it was a career year for him last year. He wasn't in the Norris Trophy conversation really at all. So I feel like he could be touching that century mark. I don't feel like a drop, and please do not add any more minutes to Cale Makar.
Hey, they just about a minute they added to him, but
Stop.
I'm with you. I think 84 is kind of low because offense is a big part of his game. So I do I think he can hit century mark? Like, yeah, he could definitely do it. But if he doesn't, it's not obviously a failure of a season. I think he's going to be right around that same number of 90. And I hate to say, I feel like 90 could be a minimum for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we'll see. Number 3, they have Mikko Rantanen for his projections, 80 games played, 51 goals. So he reached the 50 mark there, 55 assists. That's 106 points. So they have him increased by 2 points over last year, a plus minus of 18, 62 penalty minutes, 38 power play points, a decrease in time on ice for 22:18, down from 22:54, and increase in shots on goal to 297 from 271 the year before. So they're expecting a kind of a Mikko Rantanen season, and you can have the asterisk, not the asterisk, the tag be new career high in points is what they're projecting here.
And which is interesting. He's, again, the top 3 are on this top line, and they say a drop for Nathan McKinnon, a drop for Cale Makar, but Mikko Rantanen, he's getting points from somewhere, right, and he's going to have a career year, which, again, we'll see what happens with the contract. But again, we also said this might be a year where he does have another career year. So I don't disagree with this one.
And I'm looking at the power play points for the 3 of these guys because they're always playing the power play together. And they have Nathan McKinnon at 44, Cale Makar at 33, and Mikko Rantanen at 38. I kind of just feel like if there's a power play goal to be had, those 3 guys are going to be in on the points on almost all of them. So I think it's too much of a discrepancy between Nathan McKinnon's 44 and Cale Makar's 33. I don't feel like it's going to be that wide of a gap between the two of them when it comes to power play points, just because they're always in on it.
Yeah, and there could be more names on that power play, judging by how this year goes with who comes back. So we'll see.
Number 4, we'll do the top 5 before we get to our first break. So number 4, they have Devon Taves as their 4th ranked player. 80 games played, 11 goals, 41 assists for 52 points, a plus 31, 24 penalty minutes, 7 power play points, 24 minutes even average time on ice, and 169 shots on goal. So an increase in points a little bit. A dip in 1 goal for the season, down from 12 to 11, but an increase of 3 assists from 38 to 41. And, his plus minus is always usually towards the top of the league. So I think they're feeling like another, again, like with Mikko Rantanen, like a consistent Mikko Rantanen season, same thing for Devon Taves.
And I think this one could be exactly how it finishes out. Like looking at all of this stat line, this feels like the perfect year for Taser. And Mikko's got to get those projected points somewhere, so it's probably going to be coming from him.
They do give little blurbs on some, not all their guys, but some of these guys, like the higher up ones. And the last line they say about Taves is Taves remains one of the safest picks among fantasy defensemen. So I would say for fantasy, sure, but just for real life,
yeah,
that rings true for your regular roster too.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, hang on, you're buzzing.
Yeah, he's so safe that I'm hard pressed to remember an episode where we talked about Taser, just because you know what you're getting with him every single night, and he's just he does his thing, and we take it for granted.
Yeah, we talk about him. I would say it'd be hard pressed to find where we talk negative about him, just because he's always on the ball. So, and then rounding out the top 5, Artturi Lehkonen. 68 games played, 23 goals, 33 assists, 56 points, plus minus a 12, 42 penalty minutes. That's interesting. 25 power play points, time on ice just under 19 minutes, 1854, and 163 shots on goal. So I think, and he is day to day, and we don't know when he's coming back. So this is one that could be, you don't really know. I mean, what did they say? 62 games played? 68 games played. I don't know. Maybe a little bit hard to gauge for him because you don't know when he's coming back, but what do you think?
I think this is about right if that's the amount of games that you get out of him. I feel like that number is not extreme. We just haven't had a real good look at what he can bring because injuries have been a problem. But I don't disagree with this number at all.
I don't understand. Like, why did the penalty minutes go so far up? They go from 14.
He's frustrated,
but I don't feel like he takes it out on getting silly penalties.
No,
I don't know. That just stuck out to me, going from 14 and 45 games to 42 and 68. I don't know.
Don't doubt ESPN, Chris. What are you doing?
What is wrong with me? All right, so that's the top 5. We'll get through. We'll get to some of the more interesting projections, like Gabe Landeskog and Val Nichushkin, and we will do that, as well as predicting the first 5 games. We'll do all that stuff coming up next. First, let's hear from FanDuel. And you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and they get 3 weeks free of the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook. Bet $5 and you get 3 weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket. All right, continuing on with the projections. Number 6 here, Gabe Landeskog. So I think the very first thing they say in Little Bird is there's no greater injury risk in the NHL than Gabe Landeskog. But they have him at 62 games played, 24 goals, 29 assists, 53 points, a plus minus of 18, 54 penalty minutes, 16 power play points, over 20 minutes of ice time, and 165 shots on goal. So, this is one we talked about last week, Kyle, and just kind of trying to guess what he could give you. I remembered for me saying it's tough to predict the amount of points because you don't know the games played, but I felt like he was going to be in that like 0.8 points per game. I don't know what 53 points out of 62 games played is, but it's pretty close to that, I think, with my math skills. So they're feeling he could be around that if he's back and healthy, but it's always the big if with Gabe Landeskog right now. So this is one of the more tough ones to project.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's a huge, from last year, that's a whole 100% increase on all of his stats.
Yeah.
But you lost me at the 68 games. I don't know
62.
or 62. Like
yeah.
you're losing me there. Like this is all question marks. Like you could have 1, you could have 82. We don't know. But the point production, yeah, it's about where it should be and where you think it could be. But depending on what percentage of Gabe Landeskog hits the ice. So question marks all around on this one.
So that's 20 games. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So if 20 games into the season is the end of November. That's like November 23rd against Florida or November 25th against Tampa. And those are on the road. I'm not saying he couldn't join them on the road, but if they waited until a home game, that would be November 27th against Vegas.
Why not,
baby?
Why not?
Baby.
Why not come back to the Avs, the last place you left them in Tampa against Tampa?
Ooh, there you go. That could be an interesting one, but that's not out of the realm. Like he's saying, like I'm, or Bednar was saying, expect him earlier in the season. I kind of just feel like he'd be there before that, before the end of November, the last week of November. I'm kind of feeling he's anywhere from like beginning to mid-November, which could be more than 62 games if he plays all of them when he comes back, right? There's always that just injury that could be completely unrelated to the knee. But if he comes back, interesting stats. Man. Like you never know. You never like. This is one where you're going to look back and be like, you nailed it, or like, Dumb and Dumber. Man, I was way off.
You'll either be a genius or a buffoon.
Yeah. Here's the other one, Valenchuskin. He's at number 7. Projections for this year: 63 games played, 22 goals, 26 assists, 48 points, plus minus a 10, 18 penalty minutes, 17 power play points, 21 minutes of ice time, 161 shots on goal. Thoughts?
0 games played. I don't think we're getting there.
I'm not. Like, I still feel like he's going to be part of this team. And let's just play this game and the 63 games played. When Valenchuskin's out there, he produces.
Yeah.
So I think this is really low. If he plays 63 games played, he has way more than 48 points. Like he's definitely a point per game guy. I think easily do that on this team, whether he's on the first or second line. Well, so I think this is very, very low for him. And I think they're getting hung up in the suspension stuff, which, okay, like I don't think that impedes what he does when he's out on the ice. Clearly it doesn't. It's just he has those issues when a postseason comes around. Completely different topic of when he's out there, he is producing.
Well, he's producing, and when he does make his triumphant returns like he does, the team is excited to see him. But this is going to be the first time that Nuke is coming back to a half and half locker room. That, yeah, it's Nuke, but there were a lot of comments, and he's got a lot more proving to do, and that locker room might not be excited to bring him back.
What better way to bring them back than show up on the ice? Yeah, you got to earn these guys respect off it. But on it, if you show you're putting the work back in and and you're helping this team win, that's only part of it. The other part of it is off of it. He's got to do that too. But what he does on it, man, if he could show like, I'm still that guy that can help this team win, that does go into earning the respect of the guys. None of it's going to matter until the postseason comes.
Yeah,
none of it. And he's got to get through a postseason to earn that other half back. But I don't know. As far as the numbers go, I just feel like that's really low for him. A couple more I wanted to get to. One was Jonathan Drouin. They got him at 78 games played, 22 goals, 33 assists for 55 points, plus minus of 15, 32 penalty minutes, 19 power play goals, 18 minutes of ice time, 141 shots on goal. Got him right around where he was last year. And I wonder what you're thinking. 56 points last year. So I think just a dip of 1 point. But we were all feeling like took him a little while to really get into the flow, and you have a full off season with the Avalanche. You're comfortable there. You can pick up where you left off from last year. Do you feel like it's not a low number for him, but is it just one of the things where like, if everybody's healthy, maybe the minutes dip for him a little bit, and which is why he stays in that area for points?
Well, this is another question mark because it could go back to Montreal type production, or he could be comfortable in having a whole offseason and exceed this and make last year's numbers look laughable and make the Avalanche look like geniuses. So this is honestly, to me, Drouin's numbers are another question mark, just like Gabe and Nuke, because you don't know what year 2 of the Drouin rehab project looks like.
I think this is like, after this year, if these numbers go up and then he re-signs with them for longer, I think they just want a little bit more to go on with the Avalanche than just the 1 year. So they'll kind of just keep things as they are for this year. And then if they can get a healthy team, see what he does with a healthy team. And then next year, if those points do go up a little bit, maybe they increase them a little bit more from there. But so I'm not against this, but it wouldn't surprise me if he could hit like a 60 mark. It wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, yeah.
And the last one I want to get to is Casey Middlestat. They have him as ranked number 9, 81 games played for a projection, 21 goals, 38 assists. It's a total of 59 points. He's the first guy on this list that they have a projection of plus minus in the minus, a minus 13 with 30 penalty minutes, 11 power play points, and just about 17 minutes of ice time for 147 shots on goal. What do you think?
The only thing I agree with on any of his projections are his points. I think you're going to see a little bit of a better, more consistent year out of Casey, but I don't see where the dip is coming from in plus minus and the penalty minutes. I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, I think, the 59 points, if you get that out of your second line center, I think you'd be happy with that. Maybe you want a little bit more, especially on a team that is offensive minded like the Avalanche are. But the Avalanche haven't had that since Kadri left. So if he could give them that, you're in his real first year with the team, you're happy. I think you're real happy. So go ahead. If you had something else to say.
No, it's always good to have Nas come back up on the show, say his name, and he appears. So, but it has been that long since you had a productive second line center, and to have those kind of numbers again, boy, yeah, I miss those days.
Yeah. So there are a few other guys on here. Ross Colton, they say 43 points, which is 3 more than last year. Sammy G, 29, 11 more than last year. Logan O'Connor, 29, 5 more than last year. And Josh Manson, 18, which is 7 less than last year. So, and then nobody else that they have projections for next year. So, but that's what you got for the Avs. So don't disagree with a ton. Couple things I'm keeping in the back of my memory to kind of check as the season goes along. But those are your big guns for the Avalanche. So if you're into fantasy, or if you're just interested in projections, there you go. All said and done. So what about the first? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said booked it. Draft
Book
them
it.
all.
Yeah. That would be my thing for fantasy hockey too. Avalanche. What's our projections for the first 5 games of this coming season? We'll do that coming up next. First, we're going to hear from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. And whether you're into speed, power, style, which we always call the, what is it, sir?
Nathan McKinnon trilogy.
You have eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right. So how the Avalanche going to start off the regular season? We just had a question from a listener to say, like, hey, first 5 games. What do you think for those first 5 games? And to recap, for those first 4 games of the regular season are at home for the Avalanche. First one is against Columbus, and then the Islanders, and then the Bruins, and then the Mighty Ducks. And then their first road game is against San Jose. And that is every other day. So game day off for the first, even 2 more games after that. You have a day off and then a game and then a day off and a game. But what are you thinking for the first 5 games? We don't have to go like one at a time, but just what do you like?
Do they not start October 9th against Vegas?
No. They're that is a no, is that their opening game is Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking the first opening home game was against Columbus. You are right. The first home game is against Vegas. The first game of the season is against Vegas. Their first home game is against Columbus. That's where I was messed up there. But you're right. So Vegas is the first game of the season that's on the road. So go ahead. So Vegas, Columbus, Islanders, Boston, and then the Ducks.
So I think that Vegas game, it will probably be a win because that's the healthiest you're going to see the Avalanche all year.
Really?
I mean, you're going to get
after game 1. It's just someone's getting hurt in the first game, and it's just downhill from there.
How long have we been doing this?
No, podcast? I know.
And with Vegas, like, what do they really have to prove? Like, what do
Vegas has got a lot to prove, man.
They have it's contract issues, cap issues. They're keeping that team together. Their relevancy, it feels like in just one short season, they went from a Stanley Cup to their window is almost closed in Las Vegas. So you kind of like how the Avs are built, and
sure,
Vegas isn't the cool swagger team anymore. So they're trying to get that back, but I kind of like Colorado in that matchup.
I just, there's something about like home game openers. I just always lean towards the home team in those. So can the Avalanche go win that? Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. But you're right. Like, it's a different Vegas team. Do they have a lot to prove? Yeah. Can they do it? Remains to be seen. Who knows? But man, like it's just, that's like the worst opener on the road for the Avs. That's a tough place to play.
And I think it's the second half of a TNT back-to-back. I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right about that. I remember saying that. Yeah. So God, I don't know. I just think it's going to be a tough win, a tough way to start your season on the road there. I don't know if they should play them again. I don't know if it's there or not, but if it was later in the season, you have a better idea of how, each team has been doing. It's a little bit easier to predict, but I usually lean towards the home team for openers.
How does April 8th sound to you for a home Vegas game? You start in Vegas.
Jeez. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's April 8th would be the next time you see them at the end of the year.
Wow. Okay. So, I would lean towards Vegas in that one, but that's why I would turn right around in the home opener for the Avalanche against Columbus. Number one, that's not the worst opener for Colorado. Columbus obviously a struggling team. So I like that one there, obviously.
I can't wait to see the Avalanche first double-digit game.
Well, the other part of this is like it's no guarantee because the beginning of the year is tough. You're getting your legs, you're getting the cohesion down. Would that matter against a team like Columbus? I would hope not. So we'll see.
I'm sure Vegas is going to try and stay. I mean, Columbus is going to say like our buses broke down, we can't get on a plane.
Mhm.
Sorry, we can't make it. Let's reschedule.
Mhm.
There's no way the Blue Jackets are looking forward to that game at all.
What about the next two games? Both East Coast teams coming to Denver versus the Islanders and then the Bruins.
The Islanders game is going to be another win for the Avs, and it's going to be two like dominant wins, Columbus and Islanders, and then it's going to like calm down for that Boston game. It's probably going to go to overtime in that Boston game. That's going to be a sludge. And honestly, depending on that Vegas game, you could open up this the season at 500 with 2-2.
Yeah, I think that Boston game is the first one that I predicted like could go into overtime. I just feel like that they usually do with Boston. I think Boston is that team that wants to get out on the right foot.
Yep.
They had an okay year last year. The year before, they had that incredible season, and I just feel like they want to get out. Excuse me, on a good footing, and they had a lot of changes in the offseason. So I think that's a good test for them early in the season. They're going to be up for it in someone else's barn. And I think that could be a tough one for the Avs. So I would think an overtime loss there. And then your last one would be the home game against the Ducks, who you should handle them, I would hope.
Yeah, you're going to get revenge for whatever happens in that Boston game, whether good or bad. Your frustrations will be taken out against Anaheim.
So I got a 3-1-1 record for your first five. Not terrible.
Yeah, I say 3-1-1, or it could be 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2-0. Yeah, so not terrible. And then just to continue, what's next? Like I said, you had the Sharks. That's on the road. You have a week on the road. The Sharks and Seattle, and then Utah, and then the last week Ottawa, the Blackhawks. That's a back-to-back, both at home, and then the Lightning. So I think it's a pretty favorable schedule for the Avalanche.
It's a tone setter. It's a tone setter month.
Yeah, you have a lot at home. You only have 4 games on the road the entire month. So that's good. All right, throw your projections out for those as well. And then the last thing we want to get to quickly is just we always get questions what we're doing to pass the time. And this off season, what do we do in the summer? Anything that you've done differently, or what is your normal routine for the off season to just get through the doldrums of summer until we can get to a regular season?
Being a single father and it's rough. It's rough. So, and like being a single guy, I'm sitting here and I know television time with my kids will be limited when hockey season comes up. So we are going through like the Disney Plus and watching every show that we ever want to, catching up on every movie, because once hockey season rolls around, every time the television's on, it's going to be a sheet of ice. So this is how we balance it out.
I love when we jump on before we hit record, you always say like, well, tonight we watched, and you throw out some classic one that like your kids are seeing for the first time.
Yep.
I'm not there yet. My kids are a little bit too young to really care about the ones that I watched when I was a kid, but I always look forward to we watched, what was one you watched? I think it was like the Black Cauldron or something like that.
Yeah.
They threw out like, oh dude, so good.
We'll do like Freaky Friday. We did that one not too long ago. I'm like, you know what? That aged pretty good. That's not a bad movie.
Yeah. So you're revisiting all of those like classics again, but with your kids. I'm looking forward to that part. So for me, it's you do the normal dad stuff but I showed you these, right? So I got them here. If you're looking on YouTube, there was 4 books that Amazon had on sale during Prime Day. And they're 4 Star Wars books, and these things are awesome. And they're basically they're different. Like if you were a Jedi, if you were becoming a Jedi, you have this book. It's called The Jedi Path. And it's so like, imagine you were a Jedi, you'd be handed this book to say like, this is what it is to be a Jedi, right? And then here's one, the Imperial Handbook. So if you were employee of the Empire, they would hand you this book and you go through it. They have one, the Bounty Hunter Code. Same thing if you're a bounty hunter. And then the last one is the Book of Sith. So this is like, you know, what the expectations are. Like I'm halfway through the Book of Sith. I read the Jedi Path. This, I'm telling you, like if you're a Jedi or a Star Wars fan, this stuff is great. Like this fills in a lot of stuff. You know that in like the Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon finds Anakin and he's like, I don't need Obi-Wan as a Padawan anymore. He can go off on his own. And Obi-Wan's like, I'm ready for the trials. I've always thought, like, what are the trials? Like, what exactly is that? It's in this book. It tells you exactly what's in the trials and what you have to pass to become, like, to rank up. It tells you what to expect as you're a Padawan. It tells you like the 7 different fighting styles and which fighting style to adopt and which one is your. It's phenomenal. If you're a Star Wars fanatic, get these books because they fill in so many gaps. And it's like I said, it's just like you're being and the other cool thing about it is in the pages, I'll show that, like you can see like in the corners, they all like, so it has like Luke, Obi-Wan, Yoda. They kind of like write notes in the corners of the sidings of each page. It's so cool, and it's geek out nation if you're into Star Wars and stuff. I love it.
Just be a Sith like me and don't do all the trials and just be mad and let everybody know about it.
The Sith book is cool. Like I said, I'm about halfway through that, but that's a really, really cool book. They open right up to it. The Rule 2. So there you go. Tells you all about the Rule 2. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. There's 2 other books that they do have out. One is like actually the Rebel Files. And the Smuggler's Code or the Smuggler's Guide is another one that they have.
Interesting.
They're just cool books that, like I said, if you just, it's just because you feel like, oh, like especially like the Imperial Handbook one, it's like you just feel like I just did the job interview and I got hired and now here's your book and go home and read this. So cool.
That might be our summer next year for me and the kids.
Get them, love them. So. All right, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode, everybody. So thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. Very much appreciated. So he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Go do the trials, and we'll see you on Wednesday.